Heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. A person having a heart attack does not need CPR. A person having a heart attack is conscious. They are breathing. They may be experiencing respiratory distress, but they are conscious. They are breathing. They do not need CPR. They need immediate medical attention for within the first hour of the onset of their symptoms. That means someone needs to call 911. A person in cardiac arrest is not conscious. They are not breathing. They need immediate CPR and early defibrillation. So heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best people, places, and events in Greater Houston. In this episode, we're diving into an important topic that could save lives, literally. Host Blanca Quezada is joined by Gail Gould, who is also known as a CPR and Safety Lady. Gail is a nationally certified CPR and first aid instructor with more than 30 years of experience and a passion for helping people feel confident during emergencies. Together, they talk about how CPR works, why it's important for everyone to learn it, and what to do when someone is choking or bleeding. Gail also shares powerful stories from her students, tips on keeping kids safe, and even how CPR can help pets. This episode is packed with helpful information for families, teachers, and anyone who wants to be ready in a crisis. This is episode 131 with an original air date of Monday, March 31st, 2025. Spotlight Houston is brought to you by Story Zone Media. And now, here's your host, Blanca Quezada.
Hi, and welcome to Spotlight Houston. It's great to have y'all back. I'm Blanca Quezada, and today I was thinking, do you really know how to save the life of someone having a heart attack? I wouldn't know what to do, but, of course, I've seen movies and TV shows where somebody's performing CPR, but I don't know how to do that. And the other thing is I've never seen someone having a heart attack, so I wouldn't know what was going on either, and what to even do, and be afraid to even touch the person. So I think it could be a very scary situation to be in, and also making that incredible decision to try and help, and also at the same time be afraid of doing it because we may make it more difficult or actually harm the person. I don't know. I think I would feel very helpless. So today I've invited Gail Gould. She is a CPR and Safety Lady, and I'm so happy that she's here because she has been a professional with over 30 years of experience in CPR and safety training. And I believe she's trained over 10,000 people or more than 10,000 over the years. And she'll be sharing her experience in life-saving techniques, and that it'll help us make that life-changing decision comfortably and in any emergency that we may find ourselves. So, Gail, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me to be here, Blanca. I'm so glad that you asked me so I can share some of my wisdom and expertise on this subject. And you're absolutely right. Less than 50% of Americans know how to perform CPR. Not very many people know how to perform CPR. And a little under 500,000 people each year here in the United States will suffer a sudden cardiac arrest where they need CPR. So it's a leading cause of death. The American Heart Association estimates, Blanca, between 100,000 and 200,000 lives could be saved if more people stepped up to the plate to provide CPR. So I always tell people in my class, welcome to class. You'll be able to join the army of people who are able to step up and save a life. Now, you brought up something very important here that I do want to distinguish a difference. Heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. A person having a heart attack does not need CPR. A person having a heart attack is conscious. They are breathing. They may be experiencing respiratory distress, but they are conscious. They are breathing. They do not need CPR. They need immediate medical attention for within the first hour of the onset of their symptoms. That means someone needs to call 911. A person in cardiac arrest is not conscious. They are not breathing. They need immediate CPR and early defibrillation. So heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. Heart attack is the main reason that causes adults to go into cardiac arrest. So I
Yeah.
think the media has kind of confused people, and they'll call it a heart attack. But basically, a heart attack, the person's still conscious, and a person who's conscious and breathing does not need CPR.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because in a situation like that, it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? You get all excited and scared, and you're really not thinking about the symptoms that the person has. You just want to maybe get into action and do something, or you may retreat back and be afraid to do anything because you might do more harm than good.
Well, I'm also glad you brought that up because we tell people all the time, Blanca, do not worry about hurting the victim. The most harmful thing you could do is do nothing at all. So do not worry about hurting the victim. When you're administering CPR, chest compressions, you may hear things pop, crack. Your hands may feel like they're sinking, and do not let that deter you. It's very common to crack ribs, crack the sternum, but do not let that deter you. The worst thing, the wrong thing for people to do is go run for help.
Yeah. So
Because
it's call
you run,
911, right?
you call 911 immediately, and now they can actually give you instructions over the phone how to perform hands-only CPR, which is CPR with no breathing. But what you don't want to do is go run for help, because as you're running for help, the person's brain is starting to die. The brain can only go around 4 minutes without a continuous supply of blood and oxygen before it starts to die. Somebody's been laying there 10 minutes, no breathing, no blood flow, brain death is certain. So you don't want to run for help. You want to immediately call 911 and start chest compressions, because those chest compressions are it's going to push the blood up to the brain, and that's the blood and oxygen up to the brain. That's what's going to hopefully keep the person's brain alive
Yeah.
until advanced help arrives.
Yeah. Another concern that some people that may know CPR may not want to help because they're afraid that, something terrible is going to happen and they're going to get sued for
Well,
trying to help.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is an important consideration. In fact, American Heart Association recently did a survey, and they asked people, like, what is the main reason you don't want to give others CPR? And the majority of people answer was fear of litigation. But it's a no-brainer, because you're covered under the Good Samaritan law. You act in a reasonable and prudent manner. You act in good faith. You're not trying to do compensation. You're covered under the Good Samaritan law. So you really don't have to worry about being successfully sued. Now, if you decide to give the person a tracheotomy where you make a hole
Oh,
in their
yeah.
chest,
That's a whole other thing.
or you pound on their chest like you see on TV in the movies,
Yeah.
called a precordial thump, that's not reasonable and prudent. But just as long as you act in a reasonable and prudent manner, act in good faith, not charging any compensation, you are covered under the Good Samaritan law. One of the cool things about social media is I had someone reach out to me 3 or 4 years ago from Lithuania, and she was on my Instagram account, which is the CPR and Safety Lady. She said in Lithuania, you have to show proof of a CPR first aid card in order to get a driver's license.
Wow, that's great.
It is good, but not here in the United States. Now, 27 states have passed legislation that requires all high school seniors to take a CPR class before they can graduate, a 30-minute CPR class. And so that's good. I mean, it'll train thousands and thousands of teenagers to be able to join the army of Good Samaritans who are able to step up and save a life.
Well,
But
Gail, thank you. Thank you so much for mentioning the law a little bit ago. And because this is the first time I've heard of that.
oh,
And
really? Oh, yeah.
yeah, and never heard of
Well,
that.
no one would want to do it otherwise.
Yeah, no, I would probably stand back and be afraid to do anything. But now that I know, it certainly makes a difference. Before we get more into the show, I just want to let people know that you've been doing this for over 30 years. You have a lot of experience in training, and you'll be sharing a lot more with us. And so we can take a lot of information from you. But why did you get into CPR training? How did you even become the CPR and Safety Lady?
Well, I started CPR training 35 years ago, and I had just finished graduate school at University of Houston in 1989, and I have a graduate degree in exercise science and health promotion. And I had just gotten married, so I decided that I wanted to try and start my own business. And this was back in the day, 1989, when you could actually call people on the phone and speak to people on the phone. You did not have to email them. And I remember sitting in my office on the second floor, and I just cold call people. I'd say, are you interested? And when I say people, I'm talking about corporations, oil and gas companies, engineering firms, Fortune 500 companies. And I'd say, are you interested in tobacco cessation? They kind of go, well, maybe. Weight management, stress management. Then I would say, are you interested in CPR first aid? Everybody said yes. Everybody wanted CPR first aid. So this is 1989, and Chevron has been my client for over 20 years. Bechtel has been my client probably for 25 years. And that's when I started with them, was way, way back. And so kind of started off slow, and then it just kind of grew over the years. And then I became the CPR and Safety Lady. When my son was born 21 years ago, when I was 49 years old, my husband and I adopted a newborn baby. It took us 8.5 years to find him.
Wow.
And boy, once he came, I thought to myself, nothing's going to happen to him. Nothing's going to get in my way. But 8.5 years is a long time to wait for a baby. And that's when I really delved into pediatric emergencies. And I really started focusing because, Blanca, it's best to never need CPR in the first place.
Right.
And then things we can all do to reduce the risk of needing CPR. For instance, with kids, don't give your young children under the age of 4 foods they can choke on. If you have a swimming pool in your backyard, make certain you have 2 fences, one around the yard, one around the swimming pool. Most toddlers drown in backyard residential pools. Don't be like my neighbor.
I know.
And put your toddler in your lap and drive around with your child in your car, in your lap in the front seat of the car. Very dangerous thing to do. And with adults, heart attack is the main reason that adults go into cardiac arrest. So, don't use any kind of tobacco, manage your blood pressure, reduce your cholesterol, get physically fit. Even just a modest weight loss can have a significant impact on your health. And the one risk factor that most people don't know about is loneliness. People who are lonely, people who feel socially isolated from others around them, or are more likely to die from a heart attack. So feeling socially and emotionally connected to others around them is a huge, really important risk factor for heart disease. And what's interesting is some of these initial studies done on loneliness were actually done here in Houston back in the 1980s, funded by some wealthy Houstonians like Gerald Hines and some others. They were actually done by a childhood friend of mine who's now a famous cardiologist, New York best time seller. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's a major risk factor. So it's best to never need CPR in the first place.
Yeah. And another misconception is that it's mostly the elderly people that get go into cardiac arrest or have a heart attack. But we can't assume that because we've heard of teenagers, young people having it.
Young people are not having heart attacks. What happens to young people very often are they have these abnormal arrhythmias that they don't know about.
Yes.
Like, for instance, in August of this year, 2024, there was a 14-year-old at Marshall Middle School, HISC Marshall Middle School, who went into cardiac arrest in the gym of Marshall Middle School. And it's unclear as to whether he received CPR. What is very clear, when they arrived with the AED, the battery was dead and he died. Horrible, tragic story. Most likely what happened to him, he had an abnormal arrhythmia he was born with, didn't know about it, and that's what happened. Same thing happened to LeBron James' son. His son was playing basketball at University of Southern California 2 years ago, went into cardiac arrest. Obviously, University of Southern California has an excellent emergency action plan, and they saved him. And that's how he discovered he had this abnormal arrhythmia. It was kind of weird because LeBron James' son, Bronny James, he's an elite athlete. I'm sure he's had numerous EKGs, but he had what's called intermittent arrhythmia, and the arrhythmia did not show up in EKG. But it happened at cheerleader at Katie Taylor High School 2 summers ago. Same thing happened to her. In fact, so many kids, Blanca, have gone into cardiac arrest at Katy Independent School District. They purchased their own EKG machines now, and they're screening kids throughout the district.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I think A-Leaf Independent School District also has EKG machines. Yeah, my son's had 2 EKGs, one when he was 13, one when he was 19. And thank goodness he came out clean both times. But I know the guy that does these screenings, Scott Stevens, And he says, usually, like when my son was screened 2 years ago in A-Leave, 400 kids got screened with EKG that day. 8 needed further testing. That's about 2%.
Wow. Wow. Well, kids need to get that done as well.
It's it's so important. And it's on the sports physical. And sometimes parents opt out of it because they think, oh, they're a teenager. They don't need an EKG, but they really do.
Right.
23,000 teenagers this year will go into sudden cardiac arrest, and about 9,200 of them are athletes.
Yeah. And even older people, but they're still young, maybe they're in their 40s or 30s, 50s, who have problems.
If I know, I've met people whose kids were teenagers, fainted a couple times, and they took them to the cardiologist to make certain that they didn't have a problem with their heart. But 1 in 300 student athletes has an undetected heart problem. So you're absolutely right. It's not just old, out of shape people this happens to.
Yeah.
It definitely happens to young people as well. And that's why all schools in Texas are required to have AEDs, automated external defibrillators, and they use them. HISD, after that unfortunate death in August, their lawyers got involved. They had to fuss up. 170 of their AEDs were non-working.
Yeah. Have you found yourself in a situation where you've had to use your skills?
I have. I've administered choking relief, also known as the Heimlich maneuver, to my son twice and once to a stranger. And I think I've had 4 people pass out during CPR training. They didn't stop breathing, but I had a pregnant woman. This was so scary. A pregnant woman, 15 to 17 years ago. I swear, I think she was due in like 3 days. I mean, she was so pregnant, and she passed out during CPR training, and everybody in the classroom got up and ran out of the room like they were running a race. I think they thought she was going to deliver her baby and they wanted to give her privacy.
Yeah.
So I had to call somebody back in because she was very large. She was in the chair, and I got her on the floor, and thank God she was breathing. I was just like, and she was breathing. So she woke up after about 30, 40 seconds. But I've had 4 people pass out during CPR training in the past 35 years. 4 people.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. But I guess after 30 years working on this training,
Right.
and you would encounter something like this.
Blanca, I love what I do. It's very gratifying. I get a couple emails, phone calls every year. Oh my goodness, the thing you showed me how to do, I had to save my child or my husband or my coworker or my friend. It's usually with choking relief, the Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah.
Many more people choke than go into cardiac arrest. So,
Yeah.
And then 5 years ago, I met a loving Houston mom who lost her infant to choking. She was feeding her 8-month-old, and the 8-month-old started choking. She had no idea what to do. So she handed the baby to her husband, ran for help. Mistake number 1. By the time she got back home, her baby had died. Just a horrible.
Oh, how sad.
Very sad. She and I became good friends. And even though we're from different generations, different cultures, and about a year after that happened, she called me and she said, I need to take a CPR class. I'm pregnant again. So I was so proud of her. That had to be so hard for her to take a CPR class because she knew, she'd known what to do. Her baby would still be here. But she and her husband are people of faith. They're very brave, courageous people. And now she is a beautiful baby girl.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yes, it all turned out okay.
But I'm so sorry she had to go through that experience.
Just a horror. Houston Chronicle did a big story on what happened to her, and then our relationship, how we sort of committed the relationship between the two of us. It was a really sweet story.
And I'm sure you've probably, after training 10,000 people, you've probably gotten so many testimonials about how you helped them in situations that they found themselves in.
I have. In fact, this was about 3 years ago. It was Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Someone texted me a video. I was like, who sent me a video at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning? And it was someone who'd been in my class the year before, Blanca. And she was crying in the video. And she was like, thank God I took the CPR class from you last year. My 9-month-old was choking. I think he was either 9 months or a year, choking on a piece of nectarine. It was a hard piece of nectarine. She said, my husband had no idea what to do. She said, had I not taken the class, I would have no clue what to do. She said, so thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I knew how to save my child.
Yeah. But you also train people or have courses in situation where someone is bleeding.
Yes, there is a relatively new course called Stop the Bleed, and I'm a Stop the Bleed instructor. And I think the statistic is 35% of all pre-hospital deaths are due to uncontrolled bleeding. So today, especially, we all need to know how to control life-threatening bleeding. And you basically teach people how to control bleeding either with pressure, packing a wound, or using a tourniquet. In fact, I'm doing a Stop the Bleed training at a church in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And that's something that we can use if we come upon an accident or something,
An
you know.
accident or just in your kitchen.
Yeah.
I know I sliced my finger with a mandolin a couple of years ago. Oh my goodness. I threw it out. I got rid of it. That happened. I was like, I mean,
yeah, I don't like those things.
there was some pretty major bleeding going on. But, I met a preschool teacher about a year ago. She told me, she goes, she was in one of my classes. She goes, I was in downtown Houston, in Midtown Houston at 1 a.m. I was like, nothing good happens after midnight. And she said, the guy next to me got shot. She said, and no one was helping. And she said, so I took his T-shirt and packed it into the wound and just applied pressure till the police arrived. I was like, that was so nice of you. But yeah, oh my goodness. You only have to watch the news for 5 minutes or read the newspaper
Right.
for 5 minutes and see that people are being shot. And just yesterday, 3 teenage girls tried to stab their mom because the mom turned off Wi-Fi.
Yes. Unthinkable.
I was kind of shocked but not shocked. But
Yeah. So, well, then you've got a lot of trainings going on different things for different situations, but it's helped a lot of people. So thank you for doing that and for doing it for so long. So do you work with the Heart Association or the Red Cross as well?
I do. I don't work for them, but I'm part of their committees. I'm on one committee with American Heart Association. I've been involved and volunteered with American Heart for 35 years. I'm an American Red Cross instructor. I'm an American Safety Health Institute, a medic instructor. And then I was a National Safety instructor, National Safety Council. So those are the 4 nationally or internationally recognized organizations that provide CPR training. So I'm an instructor, but the courses I most often do now are American Heart Association and American Safety Health Institute. Actually, a medic, those are the courses that train a lot of the first responders. A lot of first responders, manufacturing facilities use ASHE medic courses, and I've been real happy with them. But in fact, I'm getting ready to be the chair of a Southwest committee for American Heart Association. So but I've been in several different roles for the American Heart. But I don't work for them. It's just volunteer positions.
So have you ever taught teenagers as well?
Have I ever what?
Taught teenagers?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I trained lots and lots of Girl Scouts. And in fact, when my son was in middle school in Spring Ranch ISD, they asked the parents to come teach electives. So I thought, okay, I'll teach CPR. So I taught CPR every week for 3 years to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And I thought middle school for my son was going to be a black hole. It was just a wonderful experience. I had a wonderful time. He had a wonderful time, but I love teaching teenagers. They're so, especially middle schoolers, they're so funny.
Yeah. And I'm sure they have thousands of questions.
Oh, they had great questions, excellent questions. But yeah, I love teaching teenagers. It's so much fun. We usually say about 10 and older. 10 is about the youngest you should really have someone take a CPR class, because under that, they're not strong enough to do the chest compressions, and they can't sit through a 2 to 4 hour class.
Right.
But no, and in fact, I had a mom bring her, I guess he's a freshman, which is, I guess, maybe 14 or 15 years old, brought her son to my CPR class about 3 weeks ago.
I bet he was very interested.
Oh, he was just great. He was just great. He was just super mature, very interested. And yeah, it was great. But I love teaching teenagers.
Yeah. Do you work with community centers as well?
I do sometimes. Work with community centers. Absolutely. I have, in fact, it's not a community, it's a library. A couple of years ago, I did a couple of CPR demonstrations at several libraries throughout the city of Houston. But yeah, I work with corporations, schools, medical offices, dental offices, governmental offices. I used to, and I'm not sure who's doing it now, but do a lot of CPR training for Social Security offices here in Houston.
Wow, that's important because they have a very stressful job.
Oh my gosh, very stressful. And the lobby is just packed with people, just packed with tons and tons of people.
Yeah. Have you ever had a unique experience?
A unique experience teaching?
No, well, teaching or having to use your skills.
Well, yeah, one of the good stories when my son was about 11, so maybe 10 or 11, about 10 years ago, he was shopping with me at HEB, and all of a sudden I saw him talking to someone. He saw a friend of his, and they started throwing jelly beans in each other's mouths. So I was like, "What are y'all doing?" Next thing I look, my son's face turned beet red, just beet red, then immediately turned very pale. Jelly bean stuck in his airway. So right there in the bread aisle at HEB at I-10 and Bunker Hill, I'm giving my son abdominal thrust, and the jelly bean came flying out of his mouth, and there was all this commotion. And we just kind of went on with our shopping. So I was like, "Don't do that again." And he used to get really upset with me and said, "You're violating my privacy by sharing that story." And then he just kind of got used to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of, it teaches kids and people to not do dumb things like that because they do.
Oh, well, I mean, a 10-year-old or 11
Yeah.
boy is, gonna throw jelly beans.
Yeah. And I also recently heard that you also do training to perform CPR on your pets.
Yes, I mean, I'm not an expert in veterinary CPR, but it's somewhat similar. But the main thing that happens to pets is choking, and that's pretty simple. It's almost the same thing you do to a human. But with dogs, it depends on the size of the dog, but you just kind of put your hand right beneath, sort of beneath where their elbow is on their front leg, and you compress like you would on a human.
Interesting. I'd never heard of that before.
Well, yeah, but main thing happens to dogs is choking. Dogs are always eating crazy stuff.
Right. The bones and stuff.
One of my dogs a few years ago dug his head deep into the trash can and ate a bag of cherry pits. I've been eating cherries, and he ate a bag of cherry pits. And I didn't know it till took him outside to go to the bathroom, and all the cherry pits came out in his.
No.
That wasn't choking, but I had to call poison control. Because
Yeah.
cherry pits contain arsenic.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
well, I didn't know it either until I looked it up. I was like, I hope he didn't eat anything caustic. And I was like, oh my God. So they told me just to watch him, make
Yeah.
sure he's drowsy. But
Yeah.
I mean, things happen to pets too. I mean, pets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you happen to have a website or a phone number where we can get more
do.
information or go to?
My website is CPR and Safety Lady.com. And I'm on Instagram at THE CPR and Safety Lady. And I'm very active on Instagram. I have a nice little community over there. But I would love to provide classes for anybody who's interested. And so, my phone number is 713-364-9438. But the best way to reach me is my website, CPRandsafetylady.com. And there are lots of testimonials on my website.
Yeah, you have a blog as well.
Yes, I have a blog, I have testimonials, and I'm real proud of my website.
Can you be reached through your email?
Yes. My email is cprandsafetylady@gmail.com.
Great. Well, we've kind of running out of time here, so I would love to thank you so much for taking the time to join me and letting us know that we can go out there and help people with confidence and knowing that we can learn how to do something to not panic and be able to save someone's life.
Save a life, absolutely. Everybody should take a CPR class.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
2 hours out of your 2 hours out of your day. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's what you've given us is invaluable information.
Thank you so much, Blanca. It was really a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, you need to come back.
I'd love to come back. Ask me anytime.
Oh, and of course, thank you all for joining me. And please send me your comments or any interview ideas if you'd like. And I'm trying to reach out there to you guys so that you can be just as informed as I'm getting informed. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Blanca.